Star Trek theory. Admiral Janeway's Voyager finale time travel changed the Prime timeline. Star Trek Voyager ended on a triumphant note, with the crew finally returning to the Alpha Quadrant after 7 long years in the Delta Quadrant. But it wasn't just Captain Janeway and her crew who helped make that happen. It was Admiral Janeway, a future version of herself who traveled back in time to change the course of events. While her intervention ensured a shorter, safer journey home, fans have long debated the true consequences of this bold temporal gamble. Could it be that Admiral Janeway's actions in the series finale Endgame didn't just alter Voyager's fate, but change the Prime timeline itself? This theory dives deep into the implications of Admiral Janeway's temporal incursion, the subtle clues sprinkled throughout Star Trek canon, and how her choice may have set off a domino effect with repercussions across the entire 24th and 25th centuries. Janeway's time travel. A brief recap. In the 2-part finale of Star Trek, Voyager, an older, battle-hardened Admiral Janeway from 2404 travels back in time to help her younger self bring Voyager home earlier. Her future is bleak. Several crew members died in the long journey home, including 7 of 9 in Chakotay. The cost of the extended voyage left deep emotional scars, prompting Janeway to break the temporal Prime directive and give her younger counterpart advanced technology and intel to reach Earth through a Borg transwarp hub. Her gambit works. Voyager not only returns to the Alpha Quadrant 2 decades early, but does so by crippling the Borg collective in the process. But time travel in Star Trek is never a clean affair. Every change ripples across time, subtly or dramatically rewriting the fabric of history. While Endgame largely focuses on Voyager's crew, what if the timeline Admiral Janeway created was far more divergent than we ever realized? The Temporal Prime Directive wasn't just a guideline. In Star Trek, the Temporal Prime Directive exists for good reason. History is fragile. The 29th and 31st centuries are filled with Starfleet agents dedicated to protecting the timeline. Janeway's unauthorized actions would have raised alarms in the temporal observatories of the future, unless her timeline became the timeline. Admiral Janeway didn't just nudge history, she detonated it. Giving Voyager future tech, hacking the Borg network, and eliminating the Queen in a single strike likely sent cascading changes throughout the quadrant. And yet, curiously, Star Trek, Picard, Lower Decks, and Prodigy all treat the post-Voyager Prime timeline as if Janeway's actions were seamlessly absorbed. But this raises a new possibility. The current Star Trek universe is a splintered, altered Prime timeline subtly shaped by Admiral Janeway's intrusion. Theory: Admiral Janeway created a divergent Prime timeline. Here's the central theory. Admiral Janeway didn't just alter Voyager's fate, she created a branching timeline that replaced the original Prime continuity going forward. In this new timeline, 1. The Borg are crippled far earlier. Voyager's destruction of the transwarp hub and the apparent death of the Borg Queen severely weakened the collective years before Star Trek. Picard's timeline, which shows a mostly dormant Borg presence. 2. Starfleet advances technologically faster. The tech Janeway introduced, including armor, weapons, and transphasic torpedoes, accelerates Starfleet's development, possibly explaining how the Enterprise E and other ships became more advanced post-Voyager. 3. 7 of 9 survives and evolves differently. In Admiral Janeway's timeline, 7 dies and her bond with Chakotay never fully matures. In the altered timeline, 7 survives, thrives, and eventually joins Starfleet, even becoming a captain by Star Trek, Picard Season 3. 4. Chakotay lives and becomes a mentor in Prodigy. A chain reaction occurs with the characters themselves. Chakotay's fate changes completely. Instead of dying post-return, he becomes captain of a protostar, shaping the next generation of Starfleet hopefuls. These butterfly effects suggest that Janeway's changes didn't simply help Voyager, they created a new Prime where timelines, tech, and character arcs unfolded in slightly altered, but canon-compliant ways. Canon clues that support the divergence. While Star Trek isn't always consistent with time travel logic, several canon moments support the idea that Janeway's incursion left permanent fingerprints on the timeline. 1. Star Trek, Picard's Borg Queen anomaly. In Picard Season 2, the Borg Queen returns, but she's portrayed in a new light, part benevolent, part broken, eventually led by Agnes Girardi. The collective scene here is not the unstoppable threat of old. This opens a door to theorize that the Borg we knew from TNG and Voyager were never fully rebuilt after Admiral Janeway's transwarp assault. If Janeway's strike in Endgame shattered the Borg's infrastructure, their fate in Picard could be seen as the fragmented remains of the old collective, opening space for a new cooperative Borg alliance instead of annihilation. 2. The disappearance of certain storylines. In Star Trek, Nemesis, the film that takes place after Voyager's return, there's no reference to Janeway's tampering with the timeline, only a promotion to Admiral. But in Picard, legacy characters like Seven and Janeway exhibit completely new arcs that may only make sense in a post-Endgame altered history. For instance, Seven becoming a Fenris Ranger and then a Starfleet captain seems out of alignment with her rigid, duty-bound self from Voyager, unless the psychological and societal fallout of an early homecoming changed her trajectory. 3. The temporal Cold War's mysterious resolution. In Star Trek Enterprise, the temporal Cold War is a background conflict that spans centuries. Strangely, it ends rather abruptly, with a vague explanation. If Admiral Janeway's intervention caused major timeline shifts in the 25th century, could it have ripple effects that helped end or destabilize the Cold War centuries earlier? Temporal agents from the 29th or 31st century may have had to recalibrate history to the Janeway timeline, effectively de-escalating the war to preserve stability. Admiral Janeway, savior or temporal villain? While Admiral Janeway saw herself as a protector of her crew, her actions have the hallmarks of a well-intentioned villain in temporal ethics. From a certain point of view, she rewrote history to avoid personal pain, trading one timeline for another. Think of Star Trek First Contact, where Picard and crew prevent the Borg from stopping Zefram Cochrane's warp flight. The ramifications were enormous, but they were correcting interference. Janeway, by contrast, is the interference. Time travel stories in Star Trek often hinge on characters learning restraint, not changing the past to save loved ones, but honoring the path they walked. Janeway flipped that lesson. Her changes were self-serving and irreversible. And yet, what if her actions made the universe better? The Borg are gone or reformed. Starfleet tech advanced. The Dominion never returned. The galaxy is relatively more stable. Could Janeway's actions, though reckless, have unknowingly secured a brighter future? The legacy of the Janeway timeline. One of the most fascinating elements of this theory is that it recontextualizes all modern Trek. In Star Trek Prodigy, Janeway is a key figure, guiding lost children, mentoring them into Starfleet's ideals. Could this be her way of atoning for rewriting history? In Picard, Seven's presence as a free agent and eventual officer could be the culmination of a destiny she never would have reached without Janeway's temporal gambit. The political landscape, including Romulus's destruction and the shifting role of AI and synthetic life, may also reflect the unpredictability introduced by Janeway's time breach. And perhaps most poignantly, no one besides Janeway, and the now non-existent Admiral Janeway, even realizes what was lost to create this version of reality.